In this video, we're talking about Epic Universe, that new hotel being constructed over there. We're also going to talk about the Starcruiser, the potential for this space in the future, what went wrong. We're going to dive into all this stuff. Up next, special guest Jaalin on OG 55. Welcome aboard, everybody, to another episode of Orange Grove 55. I am joined today by Citrus George and special guest Jaalin to talk all about Epic Universe and the Starcruiser. Jaalin, I'm going to start with you. Welcome back. It's been a little while since you've been on the channel. Always love having you on. If you could let everybody at home know where they can find you on social media, where they can maybe follow you on your podcast, all that good stuff. And I will be linking all that down below, by the way.
Yes, of course. Hi, my name's Jaalin. I've been on here. I think we were actually talking about Star Wars the last time. I think it was the Starcruiser last time.
Yeah.
You guys can find me on Twitter at TCJaalin, and you can also find me on Instagram at Tom Marvel's Child. I'm also on 3 podcasts now.
Nice.
Attraction Showdown, a podcast for all things, but mostly Disney, or I like to call it App Fat BMD, and the E-Ticket Report.
Awesome. Popular guy. 3 now, huh?
Yeah. One just kind of fell into my lap. This one kid needed something done for his senior project in high school, and he had to pick doing some kind of media project, and he picked a podcast, and he picked me to be his mentor for it. So, and now he's in college. It's a beautiful thing. We're still going to do the show. It's great. It's great.
That's awesome. Jaalin, it's always good to have you. Thank you for joining us again, sir.
Yeah, of course. Anytime.
And right over here, we got Mr. Citrus George, or as he calls himself, the Italiano. The Italiano, welcome back on the show, brother.
Thanks for having me on. It's always good to come on and talk some Disney with you folks.
Yeah, where could everybody find you on social media?
Absolutely. You could find me on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Disney George. You could also find me on the podcast, A Walk with Walt. And, of course, you'll find me here on my home base at Orange Grove 55 with Citrus Corner, with all that sweet, juicy, but sometimes sticky Disney news and info.
Fantastic. So, Jaalin, I want to get your opinion on this, man. Like, does the X thing drive you nuts too? Like, I can't stand it. Why did he change the name?
I don't know what Elon. Don't ask me rich people about what rich people think and do. I'm like in a whole nother tax bracket. I just feel like this man is so rich that he's just bored and does things just to like amuse himself. Like he's on top of the world. Like the only person who beat him out with money is Jeff Bezos. He's like, one day I might just, turn it into X, and then one day I might make it space chickens. I don't know what I'm doing anymore. He launched a car into space just cuz. Like nobody knows what this man does. He's just so rich and he's bored. He's so bored.
Oh, it's crazy. Oh, that's exactly what it is. Every day I wake up and there's some new weird thing with Twitter or X. It's like.
I'm gonna get rid of blocking. Why would you do that, Elon? Nobody asked you to do that. Let's just see how it goes, fellas.
Why not? It's hilarious. So let's start with Epic Universe. There's been a lot going on over there, actually, with this new hotel. Now, Jaalin, you might know more about this than I do, to be honest. With this new hotel, does this have a name yet? Do we know what this is called, or is it still unconfirmed?
So shout out to the homie Alicia Stella. She reported on this. And I've also driven past this a few times now. It has the most Pokemon names of all time. Like there's 2 of them. There's Stella Nova, and I forgot the other one, Nova, but they just sound like Pokemon Sun and Moon remakes. Like I feel like they had to have like 2 box art legendaries in the front of the even Universal Stella Nova and blank. I forgot the other one. I forgot the moon name, but like one's the sun and one's the moon.
Okay, that's interesting. So Epic Universe, from what I understand, the hub is kind of themed to it has like this constellation theme, right?
Yes, it's all like space, almost Greekish sort of looking, like a Greek utopia sort of deal.
Okay.
I've been lucky enough to see a few pictures of the concept arts, and it very much feels like futuristic Greek, if that makes
Ooh.
sense to you.
Mm.
Like a very like imagine if Mediterranean Harbor from Tokyo Disney Sea had a baby with Tomorrowland.
Oh, okay.
That's sort of the vibes that they're going for.
That's interesting. Okay, I'm intrigued with that. Now, is this tied to that maybe? Is that why they're doing the
Yes.
no? Okay.
So there's like the still I forget like the grand no the one the big one is the Grand Helios. So that revolves around the sun also. Don't know why they have two sun based hotels, but we're just gonna let it ride. And these are supposed to be like the lower tier, like moderate value resorts, the ones that we're
Okay.
right now. And then Helios is rumored to be like a deluxe Disney where it's 700 plus a night. So
Wow.
it's they're definitely trying to raise the bar here with a lot of their thinking. It's a very beautiful thing. I mean, driving past it is absolutely massive. Like this building, seeing the already seeing the coasters go up. It's a massive part. It's
That's
Do you feel like seeing it in person doesn't do the photos justice?
oh well, I think that's with anything thematic, anything theme park wise. I think you got to be on the ground for it. This looks is definitely massive, and just being able to see the tiles and everything. Like I have driven past this maybe once a month for the past like 3 4 months, and I have seen them adding more and more tiles to it, and just it's a big building. Like it's only about 4 stories tall, but it seems more massive than that. And maybe I'm no, I think it's even bigger than that, like 6 or 7. It's a big, it's a these are big hotels, and they're going to be flanking the back. So Helios is going to be at the very tip of the front, and then these two are going to kind of like flank the sides to the entrance into the park. Almost like
that's
a
in.
imagine
Okay.
if Disneyland Paris was surrounded by hotels from the
Oh,
front and the back.
that's interesting. So they're almost like creating like a berm using these hotels. That's
Yes.
interesting.
It's almost like they flank the perimeters of like the major two entrances of the park that you'd be coming into. So you would be walking into it. And it has like this heat signature feel to it. I don't know if you guys get that too, but to me, it feels like they're trying to go for like a sun heat signature sort of deal with like the blues and the purples and then like the reds and then the bright reds slowly scattering across. It does look beautiful.
That is a brilliant way of actually describing it, Jalen. I never thought of that, but especially that top picture, you're right. It looks like a heat signature, and if they're themed to the sun, this makes total sense. Okay, I can see it now. Does it change? Like when you drive by, because these are pictures, it's hard to tell. But when you drive by, does it change colors?
Kind of, sorta. The best way I can put it is for Disney people, especially East Coast Disney people, if you have been to Connections,
Okay,
the
Hmm.
Connections Cafe, and more towards the actual like dining side of it, that it's like a black. I forgot the name of it. Alicia's going to kill me for not knowing the name because she's told me so many times. But it's a special type of reflective glass that gives off like this very colorful sort of prism spectrum look to it. And I
that's
think
wild.
that's what's happening with the but imagine that like that little wall that we have that separates like the ordering stations from the rest of the dining room and connections. Imagine that, but broken up into little like bricks and then put across a hotel on a giant mass landscape. Like it's pretty impressive. It looks good. I like it.
That's wild, man. Now, is this going to open with the park in 2025, or are they planning to open it before or after? Do we
Oh,
know the timeline?
everything's supposed to open up with it. Everything is
Wow.
supposed to open up. Both hotels, I think, are supposed to open up with it. Universal, they build fast, they move fast. This thing is, I know somebody who is right now doing scenic for a few of the lands, and I know two people are doing scenic, and just they're full steam ahead on this thing. They're not slowing down anytime soon. Like this will be open up in 2015, 2025, I believe, with everything open up.
That's wild. That's wild. Now, in terms of the park itself and like the various lands, what are you most looking forward to?
Well, Nintendo.
Yeah,
Nintendo's the only one that like, and Monsters. I'm very intrigued by Monsters. The other two, I'm kind of just sick of Potter. I mean, all of the other stuff aside with it, I think this is the last Potter land that they can do that people are really going to be interested in
I agree.
because if the prequels did great, I would understand that. Yeah, it would make sense because half of this is actually based on the prequels, and they
Okay.
had to quickly rush because the prequels ended up going, and they have to they're like, screw it, put it back in Harry's time, but half of it's Paris. It doesn't matter. We gotta do this. Just make it so half of it's going to be like the Ministry of Magic, and then the other half is just going to be like the Paris section from the second Beast movie,
Oh, okay.
but it's all going to be set during Harry's time. And apparently it's going to, from what I've heard, it's going to be, the main attraction is going to be centered around the the trial of Umbridge, the Pink Lady. So
Okay.
that's what's supposed to be going on with it. I don't know the other attractions that's going to be in there. From what I hear, it's only one and maybe like a show. But I think this is it. Like, I think this is the last thing that they can do that people are really going to care about, because unless that HBO series really does bring in new locations, I think they've done all of the major locations you can do for Potter that people really care about.
100%, Jalen. And I've been saying this on the channel for a long time now. The Potter thing is it's kind of going through a rough patch right now, after the Fantastic Beasts and stuff. And there's a reason why Warner Brothers wants to reboot it. Usually when you reboot, it's because you're having trouble with this franchise. So it's definitely struggling. And I think you're right in terms of theme park stuff. This would be the third time they're doing it now, you said?
This is the third different area, and we've had a Hogsmeade in nearly every Universal Park except for, I think, the one in Singapore. So they've exhausted, I believe, just about everything that they can do. And from what I hear they always have to keep expanding Potter. That's in like the contract. So they always have to keep bringing something new somewhere. Like, it doesn't have to necessarily be at Universal Studios Florida, but some place has to have a new Harry Potter thing, and they have to keep adding on to it over and over and over and over and over again. And that's just a part of it. But I would even go to J.K. Rowling and be like, can you give us more stuff for us to adapt? Can you make more stuff for us to do? Because I think we've done everything. And hopefully she's reasonable enough in that aspect to be like, well, I guess you guys do have a point. I don't really have anything else that I can adapt. Let me get back in the kitchen and start making stuff. And I think that's what Warner Brothers is doing. I think Warner Brothers saw that, okay, we can't really do prequels. And the video game did great, but not everybody is going to play the video game.
Right.
It doesn't make sense to base the entire land off of just the video game alone. So I think going right back to the drawing board is what Warner Brothers wants to do, to maybe like revamp it. And who knows, maybe this gets us like another 20 years on Potter where everything in there is practically screened, so you can just bring in the new cast if it's as popular as the other one.
Yeah. Now, do you think, speaking of like J.K. Rowling and all that, she's been in the news for all the wrong reasons lately. I mean, do you think that's going to hurt the land at all? Or do you think people kind of just separate those two things, the theme park thing and the author thing? Or do you think that might impact anything? Or,
well, the game sold gangbusters, so anything you slap Harry Potter on, they're going to go to it. It doesn't matter if whatever J.K. Rowling says. And I think, honestly, it's just going to be, I think Harry Potter is bigger than J.K. Rowling.
That's fair.
I feel like it's not like Disney, where Disney's like Walt Disney's name is splattered across of it. And they love Rowling, and Walt was just like such a major personality. J.K. Rowling is until recently, wasn't too much of like a person who would just be speaking and who would be out about. Yes, she is the creator of it, but she's also not the face of it, if that makes sense. You'll never see, I don't really see J.K. Rowling standing near Daniel Radcliffe, just like I see Mickey Mouse and Walt Disney together. You're never going to see a J.K. Rowling partner statue.
That's a great point, Jalen. That's a great point. She's the author of these stories, but she's not like as visible like a Walt Disney was, like with the old TV shows and what have you and all that. I mean, people know who she is, but it's a different dynamic. So I think you're absolutely right. I think this franchise is bigger than her, and I think it'll be okay. Now, you said that Monsters is one of you're very curious about that one. Now, what are you hearing on that one? That whole land.
It's Universal finally trying to do their Haunted Mansion. It's finally them. From what I hear, it's a Cuckoo Arm attraction,
Okay.
and I won't give any type of like spoilers because I still want to see how it's done. But think about it. It's going to start off very much like Haunted Mansion, where it starts off being this very slow moving omni movement, and all of a sudden something happens and it's just whoosh. Almost like how Harry Potter, where it starts off like that, where you're just slowly on the conveyor belt and then
Yeah.
but something's going to trigger that. All of the monsters are going to be there. I believe it's I think it's in Frankenstein's Manor. I
Okay.
believe it's in Frankenstein's Manor, and Gregory Hall. He is the person designing like one of the main female characters in it, and apparently she's Va Va Boom. That's all
Okay.
I've been hearing to hear. Is like I. It's weird. It's like Disney covers up Jessica Rabbit, and Universal's like, "This is our time." Like it's like
Hey, go Universal, right? That's
it's
she's a hottie, huh? From what
yeah.
you're hearing.
That's what I'm hearing. There's also a Wolfman coaster, and the phase 2, from what I hear, is like a new iteration of Jaws, but using Creature of the Black Lagoon, which if
Oh,
you do,
that would be interesting.
which I would love to have because as a Floridian, Creature of the Black Lagoon was shot here in Weeki Wachee. Like that's a major part of our Florida lore is having that being shot there in Weeki Wachee, which is about maybe 2 hours north of Orlando. So it would be cool to see a ride there, and like it would be a perfect homage to the state. I think if any Universal Park deserves that, I believe it's down here in Florida.
Oh,
I really do.
absolutely. Now, what's the aesthetic of that land going to look like? I picture in my head, kind of like a very like a gothic sort of architecture and stuff. Is that kind of what they're going for with this thing?
Yeah, it's very gothic and Transylvanian and very like it's supposed to take place about 100 years after everything that happened in the haunted village, and essentially the village is reopening up as this tourist destination for people who love these monsters and love this lore, and that's essentially the theme of it. We're coming into it where all of the monsters are just now myths. They're not real. There's nothing, like it's just almost like the best way I can put it, almost like a Gravity Falls sort of way, with a town that has more going on than you would think. It's this little
Interesting.
humble village that has a lot more going on than what you would think. And it's going to be called the Dark Universe, I believe. Yeah, I think that name is Dark Universe.
Now, do you think they're going to tap into this, like, because obviously, Halloween Horror Nights has been a huge hit for Universal, massive hit. Do you think they're going to maybe try to tap into some of that with this new land? Maybe have some sort of like event for Halloween for this particular Monsters land, or maybe not? Or what do you feel with that?
I think it definitely will be popular. I definitely do think it will be popular around Halloween, but I don't know. Universal, I don't think Universal is going to do Halloween Horror Nights for the rest of their resort. I think a lot of us are calling for it. A lot of people are saying that they should open up IOA because crowds it was crazy this year.
Wow.
And it would make sense because ever since, I want to say 2019, they've really ramped up with the Monsters presence at HHN. Like they really have. And I believe the new Fresno thing is probably going to have some Universal Monster stuff to do with it. I look at this as more of I look at this as kind of like a home base. Like this land will be a home base. And then I'm 90% sure that stuff that happens with the new houses will be tied back into this. Almost like an Avengers campus sort of thing,
Oh,
where
okay.
they all sort of like correspond with each other. Because even last year they did something where they had the two houses on each coast be connected to each other, where the one on our coast was a prequel to the house that you guys would have over at Hollywood. And it was just a giant story that was connected across both coasts.
Oh, that's
So
interesting.
that's what I feel like it's going to be. I feel like it's going to be tied back into the land in some way, shape, or form.
Now, what do you think, George? Does that interest you? A monsters area, and what Jalen was kind of diving into.
I'm an old soul, so I do love those classic original Universal monster movies. I have the DVD set with Dracula, Frankenstein, Bride of Frankenstein, The Creature from the Black Lagoon. So that's something that would intrigue me. I'm very curious to see what the dynamic is for today's crowd, because it makes me wonder if the younger generation knows about these classic monster movies or how much they are appreciated, or if they're just going to go for it just for the sake of saying this is a thrill ride. It's a werewolf coaster, it's another Kuka arm attraction. So I'm very curious to see. But for me personally, I'm actually looking forward to that a little bit more than as Jay Lynn had mentioned about Harry Potter. Harry Potter's cool, but I think Potter is kind of like done for me as far as like just adding more stuff to it. Um, I did enjoy Super Nintendo over at Universal Hollywood. My only criticism with it is it feels so compacted. It's just very small and closed, which I do love the aesthetics of the land. So I hope Orlando's, they kind of, since they have the land to do so, they kind of like flesh it out and let it breathe a little bit. And I'm also looking forward to the Donkey Kong
Oh
uh,
yeah.
coaster. That I'm looking really forward to. But Jalen, I have a question for you. I wanted to get your take on it because you had mentioned about the crowds and everything. We had someone comment on a previous video stating her husband works in Universal, and they are anticipating Epic Universe to kind of cannibalize the other parks as far as attendance goes. And then eventually they're going to be expanding the studios and IOA in time after Epic opens. What's your take on that? Do you feel like Epic Universe is going to cannibalize the other parks like at the gate? Do you feel like that's a longer standing? Because you also had mentioned that because of the licensing with Harry Potter, they have to constantly keep on adding something. So for the sake of Marvel, Universal can't do that because of the agreement with Disney. So eventually, is the Superhero Island going to be the first one on the chopping block? What's your take on all that?
That's very interesting that you bring that up. So, if you remember when IOA opened up, it immediately took up all of the attendance from USF, and they immediately put in Men in Black to try to pull people in over there. That's a common tactic that most parks do, where they open up a new park and then they add something new to the older park to kind of keep people to be spaced out to bring back over there. That's the same playbook that they're going to do here. It's rumored that the Simpsons contract is going to expire towards the back half of the 2020s. So we should know that something is massively going to go there. I speculate, and several of my friends have speculated Pokemon would be that. I think Pokemon is the next big Harry Potter. Pokemon is just ever expansive. Pokemon has like 9 different regions that you can adapt into lands. And no, I might be wrong. Are we on the 9th generation or are we on 10th generation? I think we might be on the 10th generation now, Pokemon, to the point where we have now crossed the 1,000 creature mark. So they are easily, Pokemon can be adapted in so many different ways. And I think it's an evergreen thing, even more that you can do than Potter. It's such an expansive world. I would wager that for me personally, I don't think that Marvel Superhero Island is a very interesting thing because the next thing on the chopping block right now is IOA is
The
Lost
Lost
Continent.
Continent.
Yeah, Lost Continent has nothing. The only like attraction that they have left is the Talking Fountain, and that's it. Like, there's nothing else there.
Is that going to become Zelda?
That's what is rumored to become Zelda. The only reason why they shut down Poseidon's Fury is it just barely anybody went on it, and it just takes up such a big plot of land. It's time, and even with Zelda, like Lost Continent, the best way I can put it is like it's about the size of maybe I would say Avengers Campus. It's about the size of Avengers Campus. It's
Wow, it's that
not a
small.
it's a small, especially yeah, it used to be bigger because
Wow.
it used to go from Seuss Land. It used to be from the start of Seuss, not start of Seuss Landing, the back of Seuss Landing, all the way to the back of Jurassic Park. But then when Harry Potter came in, they got rid of Merlin Wood, chopped it in half, and gave all of that to J.K. Rowling. And then they ate off a little bit more to put in the Hogwarts Express. So Lost Continent it's like that. It's kind of like that. It's like that Parks Pacific Wharf, where it's just there for food and meet and greets, and that's about it. Like that's where they do some of the different meet and greets for like the DreamWorks characters in that side of the park. For the most part, it's just desolate. It's just a place that you walk through.
Wow.
And Mythos being a great restaurant. But other than that, it's like it's not.
Wow.
That's next, and I think after that it would be Toon Lagoon, which huge Toon Lagoon stand. But I think that one Marvel's not going to go because Disney and Universal are on this strange symbiotic relationship where Disney gets money off of the merchandising inside of Marvel Superhero Island. All of that stuff in there that they sell is MCU based. It's all MCU stuff because the MCU is hot right now.
Right.
But that also means that Universal is only able to have the full land there. So Disney's making money off of and also getting brand recognition off of it. It's a weird camp, but Disney just can't do anything for their parks in Florida with it. So even though, yes, Disney doesn't own it or they won't be able to use most of their Marvel characters here, they're still making a profit in a Universal park. And that's weird. In this weird symbiotic sort of relationship, and it's strange.
Do you think Disney eventually would want to cut ties in that notion where they could then use Marvel 100% within their parks, which that's actually going to tie into our next topic with the Starcruiser, because there's been some rumors circulating that it could possibly Disney would want to turn that into a Marvel experience.
From what I've heard is that, especially during the Cosmic Rewind, when Cosmic Rewind was being built, Disney's lawyers and Universal's lawyers got together to talk about the usage of Esson because he's a Celestial, and they didn't know if that was represented over there. So the lawyers were just like in talks with each other, and it's always been rumored that Disney and Universal, their lawyers talk with each other just to make sure that nobody's stepping on anybody's toes in terms of they have a very weird co-parenting relationship. So for me, if Disney wanted to buy out the Marvel contract, they could have a long time ago. The rumor has it from Jim Hill is that, believe it or not, Universal wanted to build a Wicked Land based on the musical, and they wanted to put that in Marvel Superhero Island. But Disney was like, hell no, we're about to do the Oz Great and Powerful, and it's going to blow up. And the Oz Great and Powerful was, and now they're just like, which would have been the best move because a Wicked Land probably would look so terrible right now. It would probably look so dated right now. It would have been like the perfect move to be like, and if you saw the concept art for the original Marvel Land that they were going to do here, where they were going to adapt Streets of America into being a true Marvel New York, an immersive land based off of Marvel's New York, Disney would have won. But somebody's ego and hubris was, or whoever was just like, no, the Oz Great and Powerful is going to see us too. It's going to be our next big. Quick tangent. If you people watch the Oz Great and Powerful, maybe y'all wouldn't be complaining about all these live action remakes. God damn it. Maybe y'all would. Y'all didn't go see McFarlane USA. Y'all didn't go see these crappy. You didn't see John Carter. Maybe if you watch these movies, we wouldn't be. Maybe the live action movies wouldn't be printing money, and you would shut up and stop yelling about them. Go watch. You should have bought Space Buddies, you asshole. Like,
Space Buddies. Exactly.
You're the fault. Okay, it's your fault. But yes, no, they could have easily had it. Right now, from what I've just been hearing, is Disney's okay with it. Like they're okay with it. And if they want to buy it, like say one day if they do want to eventually have a Wakanda over here, they could negotiate with Universal just to use Black Panther. They don't have to get the whole kit and caboodle if they don't want to use all of them.
So basically at their position right now is they can kind of still pull those levers back and forth while still making a profit with the merchandising while Universal still has those rights.
Yeah, it's basically a giant billboard for the MCU because that's what you have, the very classic versions of those characters, and that's what Marvel Superhero Island is. But they also are those characters.
Right.
And nothing much has changed from being on screen. for them, they're still the captain everybody know and love, and especially with this whole multiverse thing that they're going on, people still see those as the characters that they know and love in some form of capacity with the MCU, and just selling the MCU merch there. All of the merch that you will come out and see in the Spider-Man ride is either Spider-Man Homecoming stuff in that universe or Spider-Man into the Spider-Verse. Like, it's very much like the comic shop that they have there sells the comics that are being printed by Disney right now. The statues and figures that you can buy are all MCU based.
That's
It's
wild. That's
it's
wild,
basically,
Jalen.
it's basically a less crappy Avengers Campus. Like, that's all it is to me. Like, it's so Avengers Campus to me that it's just like it's a weird Avengers Campus set up in Universal. That's all it is.
Well, and it's interesting too. I think you're onto something too when you say that, like, they could have bought it out, the contract out, right? And so the lack of sort of effort Disney's putting into it. Like, look, when Disney wants something, they go for it. Like when they wanted Fox, it did $70 billion. We'll write the check right now. Here you go. Right? When they want it, they want it.
And it's funny that Jalen, you put it that way, because OG, you use the term, like, when you go to Walt Disney World's Magic Kingdom, you say it's like the live action version of Disneyland Park.
Yeah.
Well, now I could actually see that Avengers Campus is the live action version of Marvel Superhero Island.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and I've never been to Marvel Superhero Island, but I heard the Spider-Man ride is absolutely incredible. I mean, it blows our Spider-Man ride out of the water, I heard it's absolutely insane, dude.
Favorite ride in that park? I've been riding it since I was about 4 years old. It's just always been good, and they keep up with it. Like, they keep up with it, and I think that's always been the crown jewel of that park. Even with Potter being there, I think that's just something that and it's weird how they just haven't done a lot with that ride system. That ride system is great. We just now have it's only been used 4 times. It's only been used for Spider-Man. It's only been used for Transformers, Jurassic World now, and oddly enough, over in the Singapore park, they use it for Elmo ride for Sesame Street. Like, it's called the Great Spaghetti Adventure or something like that. And it's like this.
That seems so intense for Elmo. That's crazy.
It's crazy where it's like Elmo and them, they're going into space to stop this spaghetti alien from taking all the spaghetti from Sesame Street, and it looks very cute, and it has animatronics in it too. Like, it's a very cute attraction.
And okay, I have to, after we're done, I'm gonna have to search that because I'm actually
look it up. It's insane what they use the scoop vehicles for. It's weird because I see Disney Omni movers are everywhere, especially at Disneyland. Yeah. You could tell that they love that system, but only one per park at a Universal park where you'll see like a scoop vehicle there. It's the crown jewel of that. I still think that it holds up to this day. It's immaculate. I think the Hulk coaster is good too. I like Storm Accelerator Force is a nice little cute thing too. Doctor Doom's Fearfall. You'll be surprised at how themed that queue is. It's not just like a Six Flags thing where you just jump in line. Like, it actually has a full backstory and everything like that. Like, each and every one of the rides there has a backstory there that is very much comic based, and it also is just like, if Avengers Campus is supposed to be celebrating the MCU, Marvel Superhero Island is embracing all things Marvel comic book. It's a celebration of all things Marvel comic book. Even the main lane is like, I think they have like a crossing of Steve Ditko and Stanley Avenue. Like, it's a very beautiful, well done park. And Stanley makes cameos all throughout it, so it's great. It's absolutely great.
That's awesome. I did not know that. That's great. You got to have Stanley in there. That's really cool. That's really, really cool. So, Jalen, I want to ask you your opinion. Like, what do you think the impact on the overall Orlando theme park market is going to be once Epic opens? What's it going to do to Disney World? What's it going to do? Because we talked a little bit. George was asking about the cannibalization within the Universal parks. What do you think it's going to do to Disney's parks, if anything?
Probably just drive more people to Orlando. I think that's ultimately, people are going to always go to Orlando for Disney World. It's just that Disney is taking, little by little, people have been taking market share from Disney. And by people, I just mean Universal. They've been slowly biting off chunks of it. I remember being at Cabana Bay one evening and I saw a little girl walk in with her family, and they were clearly staying there, and she had a Droid Depot box. I'm like, oh man, they went to Disney World. They went to Disney World today, but they were staying at a Universal hotel. Weird. And vice versa. I see people who are staying at a Disney World hotel who show up to show up to Universal with their magic bands on and everything like that. I'm like, you guys are staying at Disney. It's weird. It's weird. It's weird symbiotic relationship where it used to just be everybody would just go to Disney World for a full week, but now Universal has generated enough interest where people will peel off. And I think it's going to give people a lot more freedom. But I think the thing about Epic Universe is, and I don't want to be a hater. I don't want to be a hater. I don't want people to just think, you're a Disney fanboy, because no, I don't really have a side. I eat either way. I live down here. I got to pass to both. I get to go there as much as possible, much as I want. I'm good. I'm going to be. I have no real dog in the fight. For me, as growing up a Floridian and just saying Universal are two-time losers when it comes to opening up a theme park. Universal here in Florida. Universal opened up Universal Studios Florida. Everything was broken. Everything was broken in that park. It took months for them to fully get online. Hell, they had to replace an entire attraction with a new version of that attraction, being Jaws. Universal Studios Florida was not doing so hot originally, but they went full steam ahead with Universal Studios as a giant resort. And City Walk is amazing. Seeing what they did with City Walk is amazing and everything. And the best thing I put that to is it's like downtown Disney, where you have the giant parking structures where you have to instead of taking your tram, you can walk over.
Mm-hmm.
And you just walk into the middle of the shopping district. That's just what it is. It's very impressive. And then they open up IOA, which is this very cool, technically advanced theme park. Has the best rapids ride in the state. Has one of the best animatronic flume rides in the state. Has one of the best dark rides in the state. Has one of the best theme park restaurants in the state. Has one of the best inverted coasters, dueling coasters at that, in the world. And nobody went to it. It was and 9/11 made it bad. I remember talking to my co-host Wakefield. He was telling me oh no, IOA had an initial thing. People wanted to go see IOA, and when IOA was a success to them, I'm like, if IOA was such a success, why every time that you would go, it would be dead? There was times that I went to Universal in May, dead. My mom and my dad, when they got married, my dad, he came with 5 stepkids and 5 kids, and they were able to get my mom, she had me and a bunch of her nieces and nephews. They were able to get all of those kids into the park, including themselves, for cheap to IOA. Wow. That doesn't happen. That doesn't happen easily. IOA was always dead. Universal Studios in general was dead. Ask anybody pre-Potter. You go at May during the day, you could shoot a gun down City Walk and you wouldn't hit a soul. It was dead. But meanwhile, Disney bounced back from 9/11. So It just tells me that Universal, and even so, Michael Eisner was approached by Universal to buy the company. Not just the parks, but the entire thing. And I'm 90% sure Eisner probably would have bought it if he wasn't going through what he was going through with the board at the time. So it's just, Universal are two-time losers when it comes to opening up a theme park, to the point where Harry Potter was their final gambit. If Harry Potter, it was either Harry Potter or a Van Helsing ride. They made the right call.
Yeah, but, absolutely.
But Harry Potter was their final gambit, and it worked out for them. But there's a universe out there. There's a timeline out there where Universal Studios is what happened to Portaventura, where it was probably sold off for parts and sold off by piecemeal to another company. So with Epic Universe is, I believe, their redemption arc. But I don't think that they're swinging as heavy as I think we as theme park nerds, we hear about a new theme park and we hear about it from Disney's biggest rival, we hear about from Universal, who changed the game. We get excited, but we aren't the majority of the people who they're trying to vie for here.
Right.
And I don't know if some of these lands appeal to everybody. I don't know if How to Train Your Dragon is going to go gangbusters. I think their frontliner here is Nintendo. Potter's not even their frontliner in this. which Potter has been their frontliner for the entire resort for the past 10, 12 years.
Yeah.
But this time it's Nintendo. Nintendo's the big thing. But then you have 3 other lands that are just kind of like, okay. I think I look at Monsters as sort of this fantasy, like their fantasy land where you have these timeless characters that just people know by association.
Right.
Everybody knows some version of Frankenstein, some version of Dracula, some version of the Wolfman. These are classic creatures that have been inside the cultural zeitgeist for 100, 200 of years. So I think they're okay on that front. But How to Train Your Dragon, haven't heard much from the IP. Harry Potter, they're on their last thing with Harry Potter, and it's probably the last little, just squeezing the last little bit out that toothpaste tube.
They're like rolling it up and everything.
Yeah,
you know?
like and until something bigger comes with Potter that's just not the classic era, what else do you have? You mentioned one time that Universal has an IP problem.
Yeah.
And I was talking with this one guy on Twitter named Donald. Shout out to him. He was he said that he went to Universal and he was just astonished by Hagrid's, and we were going back and forth, and all he could keep bringing up Hagrid's, and I was like, tell me a Universal property that has received the same love as Harry Potter. I'll wait.
Right?
Because our Minions land is looking dusty over here in Florida, and those guys break the bank at $1 billion. But they just get like leftover scraps of production central. It's not, that land isn't immersive or good. It's not good at all as compared to Beijing.
Even Elmo is getting better shit than Minion.
Elmo is doing gangbusters, son. This man is saving spaghetti. Like he's in space. He's got the scoop vehicle. It's just Universal Studios Florida has definitely come a long way, but I look at Universal Studios Florida as like, Universal Studios Florida kind of like Epcot, where it like you're going to constantly have to update it, and by the time you're done with it, it's still not good enough. Like it'll never be good enough, and that's what Studios feels like to me. Even after it's come so far from when I was a kid, it's still not. It's still the lowest ranking of their parks. So and that has their giant brand name. Imagine if Disneyland was the worst park that like. Imagine if Magic Kingdom was the cruddiest park, and that's like the marquee park that has the biggest name on it. It has a giant castle out in front of it. Like that's what people imagine. Universal does not have. Well, I wouldn't say that they don't have. I don't think that they believe in their IPs as much as they believe in other people's IPs. And I will say I love how Universal is collaborative. I wish Disney would get back on that collaboration kick and would partner up with companies again, and just, you have the great property, we have the great imagination and know-how for these things, and we can, let's be a team. That's one thing I do commend. Universal loves having collaboration over competition, but when it's something that they own, you're not going to get Potter quality, and even Velocicoaster doesn't match up to it.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. The stuff that they own, you look at Nintendo and how fantastic that turned out. I think it's going to be even better over there at Epic Universe than what we have out here, just because of Donkey Kong alone. Yeah. But look at the effort and the love that went into that. Look at the effort and the love that goes into these Potter lands, and then you look at the stuff like the Minions stuff, like you were talking about, Jalen. It's like it's like night and day. Go ahead, George. I'm sorry.
No, it's good, and that's where I'm curious about. I really would like to see how relevant How to Train Your Dragon, the Universal monsters, is to this newer generation. Because Jalen, you touched upon, in the sense of like Fantasyland, you have like these classic attractions based off of these beloved films, but in today's generation, how much do they really know it as being classic, or they're just going on rides? For instance, I know someone who has a little girl, and they were playing that Ellen DeGeneres game where they put the phone up to the forehead, they flip it up, yes or no, and it was a Disney version of it, and the character came up of Jiminy Cricket, and they were describing, we were actually waiting in line for Rise of the Resistance, and they were trying to describe the character and everything, and she said, oh, it's the character in Pinocchio, that little green thing. That's what she referred it to it as, that little green thing. So it's like this generation doesn't even know these characters' names, but
Right.
they know the attraction. So that's what makes me wonder, is that what it's going to be for certain aspects of Epic Universe? Is How to Train Your Dragon and the classic Universal monsters relevant with today's audience?
I will say, and this is something that, and I like to tell Disney people this too when they wonder why certain things get added into the park. Universal isn't stupid. I don't think that they're dumb. I think that they have to have data on this stuff to be able to see that something is viable or not. And they do have a live action How to Train Your Dragon that's coming out. And they also, for years, some people were sitting like, okay, why are they doing Kung Fu Panda Lands? Well, Kung Fu Panda has had a cartoon on either Netflix or Peacock on Nickelodeon every 2 to 3 years.
Yeah.
So, and same thing with Dragons. Dragons has had, ever since Dragons has come out, there was stuff on Cartoon Network, there was stuff on Netflix, and I think there's something on Peacock now. So something is data wise is going on where they're like, this has to be viable. Somebody is watching this enough for us to want to adapt this into a full land. I also feel like it's just one of the more breathtaking worlds that they have under the DreamWorks brand. If this wasn't How to Train Your Dragon, I think it would either have to be Shrek with Far Far Away, like how they did over in Singapore, or it would be a hodgepodge sort of land, which is what I would have wanted. I would have wanted a Fantasyland style, but for DreamWorks, like I think that, or for Illumination, or for both, to just have
Cool.
a new age kid zone where you could have all of them sort of congregate with each other. I'm also surprised they didn't go with
Wasn't
an
that the
Illumination.
initial concept, though? I remember when they first mentioned Epic that they said that there was going to be a land dedicated to Illuminations.
Recently, they said that. Recently, it's always been all the lands that we have seen now is pretty much what they've already said for years is what's going to go in there. It's just that they recently said that Illumination is going to be there, but we don't know where. So we don't know if that's a phase 2 sort of thing. And I could definitely see it as a phase 2 sort of thing because Universal also wants to keep having more stuff for children to do, like little kids to do. And I think that's also what this park is trying to do, where you have Mario, because we're also getting the Yoshi ride, which I believe has no height requirement. And you also have a bunch of kid stuff over at Dragons for the littles to do as well. So they're starting off right now off the bat with having more stuff for children to do. And the front half of the park seems to be more family friendly than the back half of the park. And
Interesting.
I if and I definitely see that happening, especially keeping that going because Lord of the Rings is rumored to go right next to Potter.
Oh shit. That would be incredible, man. If they can pull that off. Lord of the Rings?
It's been happening. They've been talking about that for years, talking about getting rid of that, getting rid of Toon Lagoon for it, getting rid of sections of Universal Studios Florida for it. It's been talked about coming to the resort for decades.
No, that would be genius because unlike Potter with the Fantastic Beasts, the Hobbit trilogy was very successful off of
Yep.
the bank of the original Lord of the Rings. So, I mean, you have two different time eras that they could actually utilize.
Yeah. Oh, that would be fantastic.
We
That would be
also have
absolutely
Punch
fantastic.
though. It's going off crazy. It's Token's doing okay. I just hope that for the sake of Universal, J.K. Rowling will come out with something, or not even just J.K. Rowling. It doesn't have to like rest on her. Warner Bros. Would get some guys in the room and really make this thing happen.
It's wild. It's wild. So let's pivot now, fellas, to the Starcruiser. Okay, so this thing closed, I think it was like September 30th. I think it was its last day of operation. I've always said, I think it's a brilliant concept. This kind of galactic cruise line concept. Fans can debate kind of the execution of that concept and what have you. That's fair. But I've always thought the concept itself, the idea, has a lot of potential. What do you think is going on? What happened with the Starcruiser, Jalen? Why did it not take off? What's going on with this thing?
No pun intended.
Yeah, no pun intended.
Bad marketing and money. It's I remember there was one tweet on Twitter that was talking about like it's weird for people to just go and say that it was all about greed, like greed was a major downfall of it. And I think initially that was the problem. I think it was Disney's. This is something that they haven't really dipped their toes in. They didn't really know how to market it. They didn't know how to market it or how to explain to people what it was. And I think this is where it comes in, where you start doing the, and Disney doesn't do it a lot anymore, which is weird because this is how Disneyland started, which was just Walt Disney coming on every week showing you what this is going to be.
Right.
And in an age where we are more connected than ever, where you can throw something on TikTok, throw something on, they should have walked people through this. They should have walked people through this more, and they should have done more to explain what it was and what it was all about, because it started off as the Star Wars hotel, and then it's not a Star Wars hotel. It's something completely different from that. And then it's also not that anymore either. It's something that we can't even fathom or understand. It's a LARPing hotel. I'm like, what the hell's a LARP? And it's like,
Yeah.
why the hell does it cost me $5,000? Like, it's, and that's another thing too. I think Disney sort of did the reverse of what they were supposed to do. They started off too high. I would have started off low and then raised the prices. I would
Right.
have done the slow incremental catch up to, okay, people love this thing. Let me raise the price. That's what Universal did with Butterbeer. Butterbeer used to be $3.99. Now one of the cups of those mother uppers, you get that for like $8.90. Like it's $8.99. It
Oh
is
my God, they really
in 10 years, it's doubled in price. And that's what Disney should have done with the Starcruiser, because this was a very experimental thing. You
Right.
can't just be throwing out $5,000. You got to start off at least half of that. I remember
Right.
my sister and me were both big Star Wars fans, and we always were like, one day, once we're done going and visiting all the places that we want to go do, we'll go and do the Starcruiser. And I think that's another point of contention where it's like $5,000, even though a vacation of a lifetime to an actual physical place for longer is only 3,000. I'm going to go for the 3,000 one.
Right.
We called up, and the guy couldn't give me a full bar park figure because this was like the Monday of the week that they were going to reopen for bookings, and he's like, I can give you a ballpark figure for 5 people, $8,000 to $10,000.
Oh, jeez.
I was like, oh shit. Let me go. I text my sister. She was like, here's what he said. It was like, no way in hell. Like, no way in hell. We can't even get people to. That's $2,000 a person for 2 nights.
That's
No.
that price. You could do a 14-night Panama Canal cruise on the Disney Wonder.
Oh my God. It was. You could go to Tokyo. I only pay, like, I think I went to Tokyo for $2,000. Like, I was able to go to maybe even less than that. I would say maybe 1,500 was my ticket to go to Tokyo, and then be able to go do Tokyo Disneyland and also venture to different parts of Japan.
Oh, dude. I got to pick your brain on that for a few minutes, man. I have been wanting to go to Japan forever. What was that like?
It was amazing. I'm dying to go back. I'm trying to go back next year. It was so good that I followed up where, like, so I started off the year prior, I went to Disneyland, and I made the note to go back again because I made friends over in California. And I was like, okay, 3 days I'll be in Cali to go do DC and Disneyland and go visit some friends. And then the other 4 or 5 days I'll go to Japan. It just makes more sense for me to just fly out from LAX. From there, I'm passing there anyway. Might as well stop in. And I got to Japan. 5 days wasn't, like 4 or 5 days wasn't enough. I'm like, I should have just said screw California. I should just went straight to Tokyo. It was so much fun. Everything's cheaper there. It was a lot easier to get around. Getting to Disneyland was a breeze. Like, it was. They have their own dedicated subway line that takes you directly up to the resort and everything. Tickets were only $75. Like, it was. The food was. I got a full meal there for $8. It's in like at a Disney park. It was it's excuse my French, fucking insane. It was the parks are beautiful and just great to hang out at, especially Tokyo Disney Sea. Like, I had to pull myself over to cry when I got to Tokyo Disney Sea. When I got to the giant globe out in front, I'm like, oh my god, 12-year-old you did it. Like you were able to come all the way out here. Like it was, oh my god. Then just going around Tokyo, and like I went to Nagoya, which is a bit south. It's in between that and Osaka, and I went over there, and they're just nice people. It's worth it. It's a trip of a lifetime. It was, if the pandemic didn't happen, I was going to go back. I already
Oh,
made up my
nice.
mind to go back the following year, but then the pandemic happened and all hell broke loose. But I was
Oh.
going to go back. I was on my way to go back.
So a couple of things. Number one, $8 for a full meal. You can't even get a butterbeer for that. So that's amazing. So that's awesome.
It
Number
was
two,
great.
how was the I'm kind of curious. How was the language barrier? Do a lot of people out there speak English, or was it kind of difficult for you to kind of navigate that?
So they do learn English and they do know a bit, but there's some times where they won't know everything. So for me, just, and I don't even think of myself as tech savvy. I just think of it as the most apparent thing. You just break out Google Translate, type in what you want to say, and you show it to them. They read it and they're like, yes or no. Or they take your phone and they tap in what they want to say.
Okay.
Like and of course, I knew like different words to say for like sorry, bathroom, things like that. But for the most part, my favorite interactions there were, I like to call them silent movie moments or like silent cartoon moments where we didn't understand what each other was saying, but we know what we were trying to get to. We know what the end result. One thing like one thing, for instance, and this has happened in Tokyo Disney Sea, was, so they have the little Mickey Mouse silhouette soap dispensers there. And
Right.
oddly enough, it's not in the bathrooms. It's just like out, like at Mysterious Island, they have one, and it's just kind of out, like almost like a tech demo, where you could just do the Mickey Mouse silhouette thing, take your picture, and then immediately wash your hands in like a little sink next to it.
That's
So
funny.
I'm in line to do it, and yes, there's a line to do it. I'm in line to do it, and there's these Japanese schoolgirls. I don't know if I was there on like a school holiday, but tons of teenagers were there, and I had I wasn't getting the thing. Like they even have like a little picture, this like description of it for people to look at, but I just wasn't getting it. Like I just kept putting my hand on it and not getting the full silhouette. And there's these Japanese girls who are like trying to explain to me like they're trying to like direct me, and then finally they just all look at each other and sigh. And there's like 4 or 5 of them. They all grab my hand, like they grab my arm, they pull my hand back, shove it on there, pull it backward, and turn my hand back to me. And I'm like, oh, and they're like, yeah, that's what you were supposed to do. And they start clapping Sugoi, which basically means like, wow, good job. Um,
Nice.
I had another thing with like a mom and her son. So they were having Pixar Fest. And for Pixar Fest, they have these weird little like game machines scattered throughout the park that are Pixar theme that you can kind of like do. And one of them was like this little ball rolling game where you basically are balancing the ball to get into the right holes. And I'm doing it. And this mom and her son are watching me play it. And they're like on the edge of their seats. Like is he going to get like, whoa, 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 whoa. And I get the ball in. They go, Sugoi, 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 Sugoi. They're very, it's tons. I can go on for an entire hour about my trip to Japan and
Wow.
about the
Now,
fun things
as
that
far
happen
as
there.
like the rides and the attractions go, I assume majority of them are in the Japanese language. Did it did did it? I'm trying to think of how to say it. Did it hinder your experience, like for the attractions, of not hearing it in full English?
Well, I now know how foreigners feel like when they go on the Jungle Cruise here, and they don't know what the hell's going on. That's how I felt. Like, oh god, the tables have really turned. Like it was insane to do that. But so it depends on the attraction. So some attractions have it in English. Like there's some OG attractions that are just 100% English, and most of that is like my friend Ryan Dorman on Bill podcast. He put it perfectly where Tokyo Disneyland, they maintain everything, but they do not upgrade it. So you get whatever you get from 1971, and it just kind of like it's basically 1971 Magic Kingdom, and everything is pretty much intact from how they
Wow.
get it. Everything is just it's run well, but nothing is changed. So they do something where when you go through a scene, they'll do it in English and then they'll do it in Japanese, where they'll
Oh,
like
that's
flip flop, or they'll do it in both, or like they'll like for Pirates of the Caribbean, you'll hear one quip in English during the auction scene and one in Japanese.
Sort of like how they did with Ratatouille.
Yes, very much, and that's sort of like the international park standard where it does that. And then you have stuff like Sinbad, the Voyage of Sinbad, all in Japanese. Like the song
okay.
is completely sung throughout Japanese. And then there is like the Genie show that they have there, which is a mix of like a live performer and a 3D screen. That's all in Japanese. There was one nifty thing that I loved. I did their Tiki Room, which is like Stitch. It's basically like Stitch's Great Escape. It's there, like that animatronic is there, but it's for the Tiki Room, and it's very cute. They give you like this little box when you walk in that translates the entire show that acts as like subtitles for you to read
Oh,
while you're
cool.
watching the show. It's very cool. It's almost like when you come here where they give you like the ears to wear that can change that basically dubs over the attraction in your language. You can buy those here at Magic Kingdom. I don't know if you guys have those over in Disneyland, but you can have those here in Magic Kingdom where foreign guests can put those on and it translates the attraction into a dub for them, which is beautiful. I love that. And so this was like their version of it. Like they saw me and they're like, he's different. He's probably American here. And like, but then the same cast member saw how I lit up at the end of the end of the show, because the show ends. The Stitch show ends with the theme song to the Stitch television series from '03 that I grew up on. And so I'm like, oh, what y'all know
That's
about this? What y'all know about? I didn't know y'all knew about it. What y'all know about this?
that's
Da, da, da,
wild.
da, 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 da. Oh, Han. Like I was girl, like, oh, like it's very interesting. The only one that doesn't do that is also like Splash Mountain. Splash Mountain is all in Japanese, and they do like a different sort of like a Japanese country accent for like their bumpkins.
Oh, wow.
So it's very, I believe it's like a Hokkaido accent, which is more north of Japan. It's not even part of the mainland. So it's very interesting. It's a very interesting park to see certain things be done differently, but I still enjoyed it. I was just happy to be there. I think 90% of my enjoyment was just me happening to be like, I tell you one story too, where my first day there, I can clearly tell I'm the only black guy in the park, and but I didn't cross my mind. And my first day was at Tokyo Disneyland, and then I went to Tokyo Disney Sea, and I'm like walking through the park, like, and that's when I realized, like, you know what? I'm probably, and they're meeting with Indiana, like they have Indiana Jones there, like regular Indiana Jones meet and greet. And I'm like, I thought about, I'm like, oh my God, it was the first time seeing Indiana Jones. I wonder if he speaks English. And then I thought to myself, wait a minute, I'm probably the only black guy in the vicinity. And then 3 other Negroes popped up. I'm like, where the hell?
That's
What the hell?
awesome.
I felt special for 5 minutes. Like, God damn it.
You know, it's funny. I kind of dig like the attractions in different languages and stuff. Cause like I recently actually got into K-pop. I didn't ever think I'd be into it, but my friend got me into it, and I'm a huge fan now. And a lot of that music, there's not a whole lot of English in it. There might be some here and there, but most of it's all in Korean. And it didn't ruin it for me at all. Like, you know, like they sing in Korean, they rap in Korean, and I'm a huge fan. So, I mean, even though I don't understand it, you know, so I think that with Tokyo Disney going there and experiencing these attractions in Japanese, I think it adds something different to it. I think it's kind of cool. So I'm curious. I got to get down there.
I listened to a lot of like shoot, tripped on my tongue. I listened to a lot of Japanese music. I listened to a lot of I watch a lot of like a good chunk of anime. Love it to death. It's something that for me, even if you don't get all the words, you can pick up on the feeling and the vibe of it and
Right.
what they're going for. And I think that's kind of what they've been doing with our stuff for years, where they don't necessarily understand it. But if Michael Jackson can go all the way to Japan and have people fainting at his feet, and they don't even really know the language, if Bobby Brown can go over there and he has his own acolytes of Japanese fans who actually paint themselves to look like him, that's a real thing. Bobby Brown has like Bobalites where they
Well,
like they take themselves, and he's like, they don't understand that this isn't okay, but they're not doing it in a bad way, so I'm gonna let
right.
it slide. It's very interesting like that. Like it's this cultural exchange that they have had for so long where they don't really understand everything that are coming out of our mouths. There's a whole Japanese band where I listen to where the guy is like, we're here to do rock and roll. Like they love the spirit of rock and roll. Like that band loves the spirit of rock and roll. And they don't understand it all the way, but they know they can understand the feeling of punk rock, the feeling of rock and roll. They can understand the sentiment of it, even if they don't understand the words fully surrounding it. And it's a
It's
beautiful thing.
I was just it's beautiful. Music is the universal language. It really is. You know, like you don't have to understand the words to connect to it, and I think that's something really special,
It's
really
beautiful.
special. So my question to you fellas is, when are we all going to get an apartment in Japan together?
I don't know, OG. I think once we go over there, because we were actually in talks about going over to Tokyo to see Tokyo Disneyland, Tokyo Disney Sea, see the
Yeah,
sites just
like
outside of Tokyo. And
trying
OG
for the
always
summer.
makes, yeah, we're trying for next summer. And OG always makes a joke. He's like, I might just get a one-way ticket. I don't know if I'm ever going to come
Yeah,
back.
I'll probably stay out there.
It's
But
cheaper, it's better, it's cleaner. Yeah,
wow,
no, it's worth it.
yeah, okay,
No, it's
cool.
worth it. I got a friend who
Well,
lives over here who lives over there from high school, and she seems to be loving it.
awesome. Awesome. Well, Jalen, I want to thank you for coming on. It's always a good time
Wait,
having you
you
on
didn't want
talking
to talk
about.
about the Star Cruiser?
Oh wait, you
Yeah.
know, sorry, wait, hold on.
Or
We
we
got
got
so
enough on. I
sidetracked.
didn't know we. If you
Oh, we
want to
got
talk
so
about the
side. Yeah,
Star Cruiser,
let's finish up our Star Cruiser. I got so sidetracked. Yeah, let's finish up the Star Cruiser. So, what do you think is going to become of that? Because the rumors with this thing maybe resurfacing as maybe like a Marvel thing, or maybe they'll do another Star Wars thing. What do you think, Jalen? What direction do you think this might go in if it does come back?
it's funny because I thought it would be great as a Marvel thing, as a loophole, because it's not an attraction.
Right.
It's a hotel. But then I talked to Alicia Stell, and she was like, "Yeah, that wouldn't work either." And I'm like, "What? They got a monopoly on the hotels too? So like they can't even use it for the hotels."
Wow.
Um, with its close proximity to MGM, well, Disney Hollywood Studios, they I I think that they can maybe open it up as a Star Wars thing and sort of make it like just this extra. You pay an extra $50-$100 to do, and you can do like a special Star Wars adventure. Like make it, and if they do like what was it, that Frontierland game that you guys had back in the day that basically was like the prototype for Batu.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, and basically have that be a game that you pay like $50-$100 to get into, and I let you, and for the very start of the day, and you basically get to do a whole entire Star Wars adventure around Batu that takes you over to the Star Cruiser. I'm interested to find out what becomes the Star Cruiser because they also, and this is what a question that not a lot of people think about, but and this is also the nerd in me. What happens to all this lore? That's one thing that nobody talked about when it comes to theme park attractions, because theme park attractions, they leave and they change. But Star Wars lore is such a huge thing. Like that timeline is such a precious thing to Disney. And they've made it clear that you can only access certain parts of that timeline through a specific piece of media, whether it be a movie, a book, a video game, or a theme park attractions. Now these things are canon. Now they paramount to the Star Wars timeline. So can we ever change Batu? Because if we change Batu, what's to become of that particular spot of the story? What happens then? And so now with the Star Cruiser gone, do you adapt this? I was saying that I would love for them to do a Star Cruiser video game, like a visual novel. I would love for them to adapt it that way. And while they try to figure out what to do with the actual property, so you can still have fans access that lore and be able to do all of those, turn everything into like a mini game, have like a reputation system, link that up. Even if you want to link it up with the VR game too, if they have because they have the Tales of Batu VR game that's canon as well. I personally would like to see it reopen as something just Star Wars related. My little sister, who's close, like by it, she believes it might even turn into an event space where that's just something that they lease out as a special event, and it just becomes like how all of the Epcot like partner pavilions, like partner like the pavilion the pavilion what are those? The lounges for the different companies, the company lounges that were the sponsor lounges. It just becomes like another place where you can hold an event for, but you just do a Star Wars event there. I don't know if they might bring back the Star Cruiser again. There's were some surveys going around of it being resurfaced and a retooling of it. I don't know. It's such a weird niche thing. There's not a lot of rooms there.
Right.
So do you build onto it?
Do you think Disney would eventually just kind of demo that area and kind of just restart over, level it out, and maybe even expand out Hollywood Studios or even expand Galaxy's Edge?
No, I think that this could be. So one thing that I know about Walt Disney World, they love saving a buck, but they also love touting something as new. So I could easily see this as being like an expansion to Galaxy's Edge, but as is. Or this is a new attraction that you have to pay like $50 to go do, or something like that. Or like this is a new expansion. It's a new adventure for Batu, where you're going to have people who basically like Batu's version of Tom Sawyer Island.
Okay.
Okay,
That's
that's
what I
interesting.
think of it as, where you just get on the thing and they take you to one part of it, or like Rafiki's Planet Watch, something like that, where it just takes you away from majority of the park. You go there, you do some stuff, and then you can just get right back on, and you go right back to the park.
I think that's what Disney should have done in the very beginning.
Yeah,
Just kind of have live out your Star Wars adventure for the day for the people who bought a like a day ticket or a reservation that's able to get into Hollywood Studios for an extra, as you had mentioned, like $50 or $100 upcharge. You can do this special Star Wars experience for the day that you're at Hollywood Studios. Now, do you feel like that Disney kind of shot themselves in the foot as far as being the expansion of creativity for Batu, because it's like they gridlocked themselves in one specific timeline. Do you feel like that Disney should have made a Star Wars land that just kind of showcases everything throughout all the films, like with Tatooine and Hoth and what have you? Do you think them making an original single based planet and just kind of locking themselves into one timeline, it hurts them moving forward?
I they like to say that Batu was always planned for both coasts, but I don't believe that. I don't believe that because I don't get doing a duplicate land for both. It makes sense to, because the whole thing about them creating an original planet was because they knew that people were going to be mad if they went with one planet over the other. So just making a new planet completely virgin that they can just come up with anything and just make it, you could just have convenient plot points that brings these characters down here. That's a smart idea.
Yeah.
Only if you're doing one land. But because they did two lands, it makes it seem like to me almost like how, and I hate to bring it back to Pokemon, but Pokemon does this thing where they have two games come out at the same time, and then they do a third game that's like the ultimate version of it with minor differences between the main two. That's sort of what I feel like that they did with Batu, but unlike Pokemon, I think it would have benefited both resorts if we both got our own planets. I would have loved if they
And
did
kind of
something.
have them interconnected, sort of like how they
Yeah,
did with Marvel.
yes, I would have rather had it where every resort basically got a different planet, and you could have it be a traditional planet. I think it would have been great to have a Tatooine at Disneyland because Disneyland is very traditional and it's very old school, while Walt Disney World is more of the kid that always strive to do things differently. So I would love for Disneyland to have Tatooine while we would have had Batu, where you would have had traditional and you would have had something completely new. Um, Paris, I think Paris would have been great to have at least a Hoth, given like they are prone to snow over there as well. I would have loved for Tokyo Disney Sea to get like a seafaring based planet and like
Oh,
almost like a Mon Cala sort of thing.
right.
Like it,
Or like what's the not Naboo. What was the yeah, oh yeah, yeah, that's what you were mentioning, like the sea type of planet. Yeah.
I would love for them to, and Naboo would have worked perfectly too. And you could have easily had the Falcon be in each one of the. You could easily have the Falcon be in each planet, and because the Falcon can go anywhere. The Falcon's just
Right.
docked in Batu while they're just in between planets right now. That's all they're doing, chilling. They're just doing a job for Hondo. They're not there for long. They could easily hop to other planets, and you could have had different timelines be showcased. I think you could have had, if Paris wanted to have like, or Tokyo wanted to have a very beautiful, well done Naboo land that took place in the prequels, you could have had that, and maybe not the Falcon, but you could have done something different. And you could have also done something where you do go into an enemy base. We have seen two iterations of Indiana Jones, and they're
True.
similar but different. And they're technically different adventures India goes on, even though they're very similar. You could have done Rise of Resistance, but with just take off the Kylo Ren mask, put on Darth Vader. Just like over in Tokyo, you don't have fire, you have thunder and lightning for the main like element that you're fighting. You don't have the Eye of Mara, you have something completely different. So I don't think it hurt. And I also feel like Disney at any point could. Disney killed the one thing I think that would have swayed everybody, and that's the live entertainment, the reputation system, and all of that was supposed to go into that land. All that got tossed in the out the window, and not even tossed in the window. All that got put into basically an expensive ass DLC pack. Like that's essentially what the Starcruiser is DLC.
Right.
It's an expensive DLC for like just it's an expensive expansion of the original thing that you have. Batu felt like you bought a playset with maybe only 3 figures in it, when
Right.
it should have felt like the whole entire toy book.
That's a great way of putting it. You know, a toy set with 3 figures. That's beautifully. I've always tried to come up with analogies. That's the best one I've heard so far because it's like that's exactly what it feels like. It needs more. You know.
You would have got that if you would have made that analogy if you had Toy Story Land right by yours. That's just how I came up with mine. They even do like a cute thing where like Batuans call Toy Story Land the Toy Planet. It's actually really cute. I like how they have it. And some people, and it's really cool saying it because you're in Andy's backyard and you on Slinky Dog Dash, you go soar over, like you soar over the land and you can peek over to you can peek over into Batu and you can see the entire landscape of Batu from high above. And in the back of my mind while being in Toy Story, I'm like, man, the kid next door has a really cool play set. Like, and that would be like if there was like a giant Kenner box leading right into Batu, like the Galaxy's Edge playset by Kenner, that would have made it feel so much.
That's what I always thought. Like
better.
in the transition, like have like a giant like Darth Vader type of action figure, like from the 70s, like brand new, pristine that Andy had in his backyard as it like transitions into Galaxy's Edge.
That would be so perfect. So perfect.
It's interesting. I still see that there's hope for Batu. I think these live performers that Disney are now letting go, I hope some of them do wash up over here to MGM. If there's one thing MGM has done great with, that is it's a Streetmosphere park that is currently lacking Streetmosphere, and it's sad. And I just hope that Disney does invest in that a little bit more. I really hope that they do. I really, really do.
Now, Jalen, have you seen? I think it was just like last week. Those little droids that they rolled out. I mean, how cute are those? I mean, I fell in love with those little things.
Y'all will probably get them. We don't get that over here. We don't get that over here. Mostly because people are monsters. You should see Mando come out. Mando is swarmed, but Mando can be a little more like gruff. So he's like back up. Like he can go back up because he's the Mandalorian. But there's so many characters that have to be like stage. They can't be mean or anything like that. And also, people let their kids do anything in this park. People just think the world, like it's just a giant playground. It's insane the stuff that I see happen in Orlando with people and children. Even though in Tokyo, I remember when they did the play test for like the roaming droids, and you immediately lose faith in humanity because all the kids just go up to it and start kicking the shit out of it. And it's like, oh my God. Like imagine at your first day Like imagine just being born and your creator goes like, "We're going to show you out to the public and they're going to love you," and you immediately get jumped by a bunch of these little feral creatures that you have no idea what's going on. That's what's going on. Like then slowly people just start like hugging it and like taking pictures with it and being endearing. But there's also like look up online where there's one kid that, like not this particular playtest, but there's one playtest in like in like Asia where they have this robot come out and the kids do exactly that. Like they just gang up on the damn thing. And it's just like, what the? And it just makes me go back. Why are you so cruel? Why is the first thing you do as like 6-year-olds is to like smack it and to punch it and to kick it and to gang up on it? And the robot then learns that, oh, if I go by its parents, it won't do that to me. And so the robot just cowers behind the parents at a certain point. Like
And that's the one thing I could appreciate about Disneyland, because Disneyland, the characters can roam free and be like within their land. Where with Disney World, they did have that for a period of time, but the cast members always told me the characters were so tired of being tackled like football players, you know. So it's like that's why they have to have designated areas with a line system for meet and greets.
Is that why Pooh is out there like 50 yards out on the little grassy like?
So that started during the pandemic, and I love those. I love when they come out and they just do little vignettes. Like they had like I know there was like a Daisy, and there's sometimes like Daisy and Donald will come out and have a picnic on the lawn over at an MGM, or you'll see like Chip and Dale will bother them. I'm like, it's like in that lawn, especially because you can have people surround that lawn. It's like a little show where everybody gets to have like their moment with the characters, and they flash. Like they can do the little selfies. There's like Max and Goofy where they go fishing over in the little Echo Lake section, and it's like this little cute moment with them. And you see Winnie the Pooh come out near the Land Pavilion and Imagination Pavilion with a butterfly net, and it's almost like a Magic Journey sort of moment where he's trying to catch a butterfly. And I like that. I think that gives us a little bit of a vignette of what you guys have in Disneyland, because I love seeing y'all characters just play around and being able to exist. And that's essentially what we have. And you can still. Pooh will acknowledge you. He'll let you get your selfie. He might even lean over to get you a hug or something like that. But when it's time for Pooh to go, he goes. And he doesn't have to worry about somebody jumping him, because he has 2 characters attendants, and they just let him, go on about his day. I like that.
Yeah, that's interesting. I absolutely, I had my first trip to Walt Disney World back in July and absolutely fell in love with Walt Disney World.
And you did not call me, man.
I know. We're planning on going out again in May, right, George?
May.
So in May we'll definitely have to meet up. Definitely.
Show y'all how to live like locals. I'm taking you everywhere.
Awesome. I'm looking forward to it. I absolutely fell in love with Animal Kingdom. That turned out to be my favorite park.
That's my second favorite. It's the most beautiful. I don't go often. I like to think of that one as like Animal Kingdom is so segregated from the rest of the property that it does feel like it's its own little village, especially with Animal Kingdom Lodge being right over there. Did you stop at any of the hotels while you were there, or did you just?
Oh yeah, we did a lot of resort hopping. It was fun.
Like those are almost like our own little lands. Like going to the different resorts are like our own little lands because they're so massive and expansive. But Animal Kingdom is off on the far part of the property where it's mostly like foliage and swamp and everything like that, and you definitely do feel like you're in a very bucolic jungle-like area. It's easily the most beautiful park. I think it's our most beautiful park on property. It's my second favorite park. I don't get to go out as often. It closes so late that it hurts that it closes so late, but so early. I love it. I love it to death. I want more for that park.
I walked into that park and I was just like, I was barely through the turnstiles. I turned to George. I'm like, okay, this is like my favorite thing already. I love this. And then we went to go do the Rafiki watch thing later in the day. And we go through that. And I'm like, wait, this park has a train too? Like, this is awesome. I love this place, So I went into Walt Disney World thinking, okay, Epcot's gonna be my favorite. And Epcot was a very close number 2 for me. But I was not expecting. Animal Kingdom caught me off guard. I fell in love with that park instantly. I absolutely loved it.
I got one question for you.
Sure.
Cosmic Rewind and Mission Breakout.
Oh man.
Well, that's easy for him.
See, I'm kind of a chicken, Jalen. Like I didn't. Cosmic Rewind was a little intense. That was a little intense for me.
No, don't get me
Uh,
wrong. That's something that I was surprised at how intense it was. Did you have a good time though?
I did. I did.
Yeah.
I'm glad I got to check it
I'm
out.
glad he got to experience it. I'll say that so
Yeah.
that way he could have an opinion because I didn't know exactly like what his threshold would be because I mean we always talked like he's not a big thrill junkie and
Like,
I thought well
yeah.
maybe Cosmic Rewind because with me I am a thrill junkie so I can't depict of where somebody's threshold is so I thought okay maybe he will enjoy it.
Yeah.
But like he came off and he said his
Whew.
analogy he said like here's my threshold and Cosmic Rewind is like all the way done at the end zone.
Yeah, it was intense, but here's the thing. For me personally, it was a little much, but it's a quality experience. If you're like a coaster enthusiast, if you're into thrills, that's the ride, man. I mean that gives you the way they turn those vehicles,
Yeah.
the G-force hits you totally different. It's almost like the Big Thunder goat trick, like the whole time. Like it's crazy.
I what about you, George? Which one? Break out the Cosmic Rewind.
Oh gosh. Oh. Oh my.
That's a tough one.
That one's a tough one for me because that's like saying pick which kid is your favorite.
Well, okay, I'll go better. Which do you think is objectively better? Not your favorite. Which one do you think is better than the other?
Okay, I'll say actually for overall theme, like from beginning to end, I would have to say Mission Breakout.
Really? That's surprising.
More so because you got the rocket animatronic. He kind of interacts with the guests. You know you go into the room. You have to escape out of the collector's fortress. You have to break out the guardians, and then of course the overall thrill. Now, yeah, probably like as far as like thrill goes, I would lean more towards Cosmic Rewind because I love that sensation of riding. And I'm a coaster person, but I think if you tie in overall theme, um, I would lean more towards Mission Breakout. Now, if we would have gotten the audio animatronics like we were supposed to get for Cosmic Rewind, I think it was supposed to be of Rocket and Groot. I
Yeah.
think that would have heightened it a little bit. Um, but I mean, like, I'm just kind of like nitpicking because both of those attractions are really.
It's interesting because they're two very different kind of experience. Like Mission Breakout is I think more punk rock, a little bit more like edgy, and Cosmic feels more traditional Disney, like in a traditional attraction at Disney, right? Mission Breakout seems to have like that kind of like that quirkiness to it.
Now,
So
what I would have loved for them to do, now I know because it's kind of in a different time era where Mission Breakout is Baby Groot and Cosmic Rewind is Adult Groot, but I would have loved for them to kind of have like a kinetic energy between both attractions on the coast. Like if they were to say, "Oh, we just broke out of," like on Cosmic Rewind, if they were to say
Yeah.
something like, "Oh, we just broke out of the Collector's Fortress. Now we have to go through this," like sort of like a little nod to the attraction, like they're kind of tied to one another.
It's
that'd be cool.
complete it's completely standalone because even in Paris, Paris communicates with like Paris they make note of even the Stark Expo over at Hong Kong Disneyland, but no mention of Cosmic Rewind, like no mention of it.
Hmm.
So it's like its own standalone thing. And I wonder if it's because of the fact that it's very meta. It makes note for, and I would also say that like, well, no, all the stuff that Disney has done with the like Marvel characters has been very meta. So I guess I wouldn't say that. I mean, hell, one takes place all throughout Hong Kong. So yeah, it's all meta, but I don't know what the separation is and why they separated it the way that they did. But I definitely feel that something along the line is just a little weird with how they don't Cosmic Rewind just like its own thing elsewhere.
That is interesting. I was going to say maybe it's the Universal contract, but if they're referencing other Guardians, it shouldn't be a problem.
I wouldn't, and maybe it's like if they reference the other. Mm, it depends on who shows up in the attraction and who they're referencing, and maybe
Yeah,
that's why they don't make a note out of it, and maybe that's why they can't be connected, and maybe that's why we couldn't have Baby Groot because it would have been too much of a connection for the stuff over
yeah.
at because Disney has said that they are all intertwined with each other. But clearly, you can't have the Avengers Campus brand on it. But you can sell Avengers Campus merchandise. I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. I don't understand these things. I'm just a schmuck who's trying to like, can we just have fun stuff again? Can we do fun? Can we
Thank
do
you.
fun stuff? Can we
Thank
just,
you.
what happened to that?
Right? Exactly.
What
Exactly.
happened to that? Oh my
Yeah.
God.
It's crazy. It's crazy. But Jalen, I want to thank you so much. It's always fun having you on. I love picking your
Thanks.
brain
This
on
is
all this
great.
stuff. Really good time, Jalen. If you could let everybody home know where they can find you on social media.
Yes, y'all can find me on Twitter at TCJaalin. Y'all can find me on Tomorrow's Child, all one word, over on Instagram. You can find me on AppFatBMD. Uh, that's my main podcast. You can find me on the E-Ticket Report, and you can also find me on Attraction Showdown.
Perfect. And links will be down below in the description. Thank you so much for coming on, Jalen. And Mr. Citrus George, if you could let everybody home know where they can find you on social media.
Absolutely. You can find me on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Disney George. I always have to throw that in there. I'm sorry, because to me
Formerly
it's
known.
Twitter. Formerly
Yeah.
known as Twitter. It's. You could also find me on the podcast, A Walk with Walt. And of course, you'll find me here on my home base at Orange Grove 55 with Citrus Corner, with all that sweet, juicy, but sometimes sticky Disney news and info.
Perfect. Well, thank you all for watching. Comment down below with anything you want to talk about in the comments. We could talk about Tokyo Disney. We could talk about Walt Disney World, Starcruiser, Epic Universe. We talked a lot about that today. If you comment down below in regards to that, the new hotels over there, we would love to hear from you. Thank you so much for watching. And as always, have a wonderful day. Bye-bye, everybody.